It's the art of compounding. Compounding means reinvesting your earnings. So Albert Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world because of the power that compounding has.
So today I want to talk about passive income.
Nice.
I know you were about what, like 23 when you started making $1,000 a month?
Yeah, I think it was like 22 or 23. So
That's early.
I was very fortunate. Very, very, very fortunate in terms of timing, because I started generating passive income through real estate, and I started investing in real estate when we were in the bottom of the 2008 crash. Like, the crash happened in 2008 and real estate prices bottomed in 2012. And that was around the time when I started investing in real estate because I was in college. So I got very fortunate in terms of timing, because I go into college and I was running an event planning company that was making me decent money. I was making pretty good money. Took me a little while to get up and running, but I was saving cash, and every book said I need to start investing in real estate. I didn't know anybody who invested in real estate. I didn't have any real estate investors in my family, but I said that, okay, I'll invest in real estate, whatever that means. So my first property, I was 19, I bought for $8,000 total, not the down payment, the total price, $8,000. It was a small condo I bought out of foreclosure in a good area. And before the whole crisis, it was selling in the range of 120 and 150 grand. So I was able to buy it out of foreclosure from the bank for $8,000. That one was netting me, after all expenses, somewhere between $250 and $350 a month in profit. So I bought it for $8,000, put in another $4,000 in renovations, so $12,000 all in. It rented out for $600 a month. About half of that was expenses, which left me with somewhere in the range of $250 to $350 a month in profit. So that was when I was 19. Then I just started buying more real estate. And it's funny now because I look back at these prices and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I just wish that, like, I could just shake myself and say, go find people with money and buy as much real estate as you can, because I had no idea what was going on. I thought this was normal because I wasn't exposed to anything else. And everyone that I talked to about this told me that I was dumb for doing this. Like, I talked to a couple friends and I talked to family members, and everybody told me that I was out of my mind for buying real estate now, because real estate was the worst thing that you could buy. So, but I just wish I could, like, go back and be like, just please buy more. You're doing something right. So the first one I bought for $8,000. The next one was not too long after. I bought for $13,000 a home, and this one I think I only put in a couple $1,000s worth of work. Also, this one I rented out for $800 a month, $800 or $850, and again, about, let's just say half of that in expenses. The third one was my nightmare property. That one I bought for $30,000. That one, it took me forever to start generating any cash flow from it, but then I sold it at a loss because that was just, that was my nightmare property. I made every mistake possible in that book. I screwed up everything because I don't know what I was doing. I was just getting started. But I bought another one. It was under 30. It was like 20 or 25. And that one I also rented for about $850, I think. So you add those up, all my net, and that was like around about $1,000 a month in profit, passive, quote unquote, passive income from real estate. And I was, I don't know, 22, 23 at the time. So I got very fortunate on this passive income side of things because, one, I was dumb enough to go out and buy real estate when everybody was running. Everyone told me I was so stupid when I was doing it. Second, I started getting into financial education at the right time. I was reading books. I was just kind of absorb all that information that I could, because I didn't grow up learning about financial education. No one taught me the stuff. My parents told me that I should just focus on studying and become a doctor because that's the best kind of education that you can get. And so I was fortunate in that. And then I was also fortunate that when I was in high school, I started working at weddings because I got to meet a lot of DJs when I was in high school. And then we started hosting teen parties my junior and senior year in high school. So then when I went to college, I saw everyone partying, and I was like, well, okay, this is an opportunity for me to host the parties that people go to when they go to college. So when I was a freshman, I started hosting parties, and that grew into hosting parties, concerts, and shows, a full event planning company. So I was fortunate that I was earning some money. I was fortunate that I wouldn't say I had the best education. Like, I just knew that, like, okay, maybe I should invest in real estate. I don't know what that meant. My education really came from, like, going out and doing it and making a ton of mistakes. My nightmare deal, I lost a lot of money, but that was like legit my tuition. Like I call that my that was the only deal that I've lost money on so far. Knock on wood. I don't really believe in that, but whatever. That's what people say, right? That's the only deal that I've lost money on so far. But that deal taught me so much because I made every mistake possible. I got screwed over by a contractor. I got screwed over by tenants. I got screwed over by the city. I got screwed over by the property. I did everything wrong. But that taught me a lot. So that was kind of how I started learning about this whole idea of passive income. So now, when people talk about passive income, the question is, what is passive income? Because everybody assumes that passive income is, I do this thing or I buy this thing and I'm going to get paid for doing nothing. And yeah, kind of, sure. Like my real estate pays me monthly and I don't got to really do anything. I look at my reports every month and every quarter. I just look at kind of, okay, how are these properties doing? What are the rents? What are the repairs? Like, I don't know the tenants. The tenants don't know me. I don't get calls every day when something goes wrong. I have a team, a property management team that deals with all that. But I'm still pretty active in real estate. I still look for deals. Like yesterday, I had to go look at a deal. I told you I had to leave the office early. I had to go look at a deal. I'm still involved when I find a property. I like to be involved with the renovations because I like distressed properties. Distressed meaning either I buy a property that's beat up physically, kind of a physically messed up property, or financially messed up. So this might be an apartment complex. It doesn't have any tenants in there or only a couple of tenants and people are not paying and it has issues. I like that because if I know the area, I know it's a good area, I have a team that we can come in, put in the work and get it fixed up. So I like to be involved in that sense. But in order for this to become passive, I had to put in a lot of work because again, when I bought my first property, that condo, that was my idea. It was, okay, I bought this property. It's passive income. $600 a week hit my bank account. I got to pay some expenses. That was a condo, so I had to pay a HOA fee, the homeowner association fee. I have to pay my property taxes, my insurance, and all the other stuff. But what I didn't realize was you need a good property manager because the property manager that I had then was horrible. And so I was so excited that this is my first property that I went out, as soon as I bought it, I went on to Craigslist and put an ad out for a tenant because I didn't want to wait for my manager to go and do that. They were had their own issues because, this was again, let me just kind of put this in perspective. The bottom of the 2008 crash. So nobody knew what the heck was going on in the economy and the real estate market was shattered. Every industry in real estate was on the brink of collapse. So people who worked in real estate, people just were not making money in real estate. So nobody knew what business was going to stay. This property management company that I was working with is no longer here anymore, but they were, I don't know if it was a scam or what. These guys were just, I don't even know if they were licensed now. I look back and I asked myself these questions, but they didn't do anything. And so I just thought it was normal, right? I didn't know anything else. I was like, okay, this property management company isn't doing anything. Let me go out and find a tenant. So I found a tenant off of Craigslist. They had my information. We didn't even sign a lease with them. I told my property management company they wanted to move in. They didn't go out and sign a lease with the tenant. Tenant moves in, they start paying. They have my number, and they're just constantly calling me with random stuff. So, it was in the beginning, it was anything but passive. I was on the phone with tenants. I was trying to figure out what's going on with contractors. How do you find the right contractor? So in order to get to that point of in real estate particularly, in order to get to the point of actual passive income, you got to go through this hurdle. This education hurdle, this I screwed up hurdle, this I got to know the right team hurdle, I got to know how the process works hurdle. It's a hurdle. It is a lot of work in the beginning. But once you get past that hurdle, once you get through the screw-ups, once you get through the mistakes, once you get through knowing the right team, once you get through making the right connections, it becomes a whole lot easier. I made an offer on a property yesterday, and I saw the property. I'm a licensed real estate agent, but I don't write my own offers. I go and look at the properties, but it doesn't take long to write an offer, but it's just not worth my time. So I partner with another guy, say, hey, I texted him. Actually, I called him yesterday. I was like, hey, I like this property. What do you think about it? Me and him went back and forth on some of the stuff. And I said, okay, put in this price, put in this offer. I drive home. By the time I get home, the offer's in my mailbox. All I got to do is click a few buttons to add my signature. If that gets approved, then we're going to go and do the inspections. I have my property inspector, my private property inspector on my phone. I would just text him and say, hey, are you available this date or this date for a property inspection? Then I'm going to email or text my contractors and say, hey, can you meet me here? What days work for you? And so it's much easier now because I know the right people. And once that, if it gets approved, then hey, yes, through my texts, go out and we buy it, go through the renovations. Like, it's a much more streamlined process. And then I just hand over the keys to my manager and they know exactly what to do. So, trying to define this whole idea of passive income in real estate specifically, you got to put in the work for it to become passive.
So eventually it becomes passive after years and years of kind of working through that.
Yeah, I mean, and the more effort you put in, the shorter it can be. But it does take time. You can see that type of passive income much quicker in things like stocks. If you go out and invest in a dividend-paying company, you can get real passive income much sooner. Like, you go out and invest in McDonald's. McDonald's pays a dividend at the time I was recording this video, right? Well, you don't got to put in any work. You don't got to flip burgers to start getting that dividend and to keep getting that dividend. But you should stay involved with your research. Like, you should still be keeping up. If you're investing in individual companies, you should be keeping up with McDonald's. If you're investing in McDonald's, you should be keeping up with their earnings statements. You should be knowing what their plans are for the next quarter and the next year if you want to invest in the individual company. Like, you got to be reading the financial statements. You got to be reading what this company is doing. You got to keep up to date on that. If you're not, well, now you're the person that's at risk, where if McDonald's screws things up, they come up with a disgusting burger, as if they don't already. But if they come up with a burger that people actually think is disgusting and people stop buying it, and, I know McDonald's is a real estate company, but McDonald's has real issues, then what? Well, you gotta understand what's going on. You should be paying attention to this, because if McDonald's starts losing money, they're gonna cut their dividends. They cut their dividends, the stock price goes down, so then you get hurt. So you kind of gotta be a little bit forward thinking there. And if you don't want to put in the work, then you invest in ETFs that pay dividends. An ETF is an exchange traded fund. Instead of investing in an individual company, you're now investing in a basket, a group of companies. And there are dividend ETFs, which the sole purpose is to give you steady cash flow. So, I mean, if you don't want to invest in individual companies and put in their work, just invest in ETFs. But that's another way for you to start generating passive income without having to put in the work. So you got to kind of know, how much work do I want to put in the beginning, or kind of consistently, and based off of that, what kind of returns do I want, right? Like, real estate takes the most work in the beginning for it to become passive. But the properties that I first bought, minus that one nightmare deal, they're still paying me today. The condo that was originally rented for $600 is now renting for $850 or $8 or $50. And then, so everything else, like, I still own them. I don't do any work for them. I have the team, but this is where you have to ask yourself, where do you want to be involved and what it is that you want to do.
Now, I don't want to dox you here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not 23 anymore.
No.
And the world of business and finance and investing has changed a lot, I assume, over that span of time. Do you think people have those same advantages? You kind of mentioned timing. Do you think people have those same advantages entering real estate or trying to get passive income today?
No, not at all. It is a different world and a different market now. But things change. Like, I mean, like, in a decade, so, this is a decade ago from what I did. People that became real estate millionaires investing in real estate after the 2008 crash. A decade from now, what you're going to see is a whole bunch of people who in their 20s started buying Bitcoin when it was a much cheaper, and then sold it at, a significantly higher price. Even people who bought it at 3,000 or 1,000 or 500 bought it at sub 10 grand and sold it at 60 grand. You're going to see a whole bunch of people in 2030 say, I made millions of dollars in Bitcoin, didn't know what I was doing with my money, but then I started learning what to do with my money. So, like, you have a lot of young people now that made millions in things like cryptocurrency, and now they're like, what do I do with my money? And so you're right, that real estate opportunity that I had, it's not here anymore. You can still make a lot of money in real estate. Real estate has opportunities. I'm still actively investing in real estate, but that opportunity that I had when I first started, it is not the same, because back then, pretty much anything you lay your finger on, you could buy for, 80 to 90 to 95% off what it was selling for just a few years ago. So you're buying it for pennies on the dollar. You could rent it out for significantly a good amount, or it's much higher than what it should be at that price, and you were going to make money. Nowadays, it's much harder to find a real estate deal. I'll tell you from experience, I'm working pretty hard to find some real estate deals. I am not closing deals as fast as I was just a few years ago because there aren't deals out there like there were before. And so you have to put in a lot more work. I'm putting in a lot more work in real estate trying to find these deals. So yeah, you're right. That real estate opportunity, like that, everything is there. No, it's not there. The deals are much harder to find. So, if you want to find a real estate deal, you can, but you have to be willing to put in the work.
Do you think it takes money to make money?
That's a good question. We're going to jump back into the video in just a second. But before we do, I want to talk to you about our Market Insiders program, because if you're interested in investing your money in the stock market and the real estate market, our Market Insiders program can really help you with that. Market Insiders is not a class. It is a weekly group coaching session. Every week, you're going to get access to a live class where you'll learn something about how to invest your money in the stock market and the real estate market. And because these classes are live, you will be able to apply what you learned to the real world. So for example, let's assume that this week's coaching session is on the topic of how to read a cash flow statement. That means for the first half of the class, you might go over what is a cash flow statement, how to find a cash flow statement, what it means, and how to understand it. And for the second half of class, if Amazon released their earnings statement this week, you might actually go over Amazon's cash flow statement. That way you can apply what you learned, since all of these coaching sessions are live. The real estate coaching sessions work the exact same way. You're going to go over a lesson like how to understand the cash flows of a property or how to find an undervalued property, and then you're going to apply what you learned to today's market. As soon as you enroll in Market Insiders, not only are you going to get access to our stock market and our real estate coaching sessions, but you're also going to get access to our stock market beginners class for free that will walk you through everything you need to know to get started investing your money in the stock market. And you're also going to get access to all the previous coaching recordings, that way you can go back and learn more, and you're going to get access to our private community of serious investors. This is our exclusive Discord community that's made just for Market Insiders, and you can go into this community, network with other investors, and you can ask your questions. When I was working to create Market Insiders, there were two things that were very important to me. First, the coaches, because I wanted to make sure that the teachers were real investors, and second, the pricing, because I wanted to make sure that it was very affordable. First, talking about the teachers, all of our coaches have been vetted. These are not some random gurus that we found. These are real investors, people who have been investing their money for years, people who've gotten great returns, and people who have the money behind them. We're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars invested themselves. So these are real investors who are doing what they teach. And on the price side, it was very important to me that Market Insiders was an affordable program. I didn't want to create a program that would cost you $1,000 or $900 to get started with Market Insiders. It costs less than the price of dinner for two if you want to get started with Market Insiders. And you don't even got to take my word for it, because I know there's a lot of crappy products on the internet. You can try out Market Insiders for free. We have a free 10-day trial where you can go through the entire Market Insiders program, and then you can decide if it's right for you or not. During this free trial, you're going to get access to everything. You're going to get access to our group coaching sessions, you're going to get access to our free stock market class, you're going to get access to our previous recordings, and you're going to get access to our private community of investors. This way, you can try it out and then decide if it's worth the money or not. If you start Market Insiders, you try it, and then you realize that you hate it, well, then you can cancel your membership during your free trial and it won't even cost you a penny. But if you start Market Insiders, you try it, and then you love it, well, then you can decide if it's worth it or not for you. This way, you literally have nothing to lose. So if you want to learn more and get started with your free 10-day trial to Market Insiders, I'll put the link to where you can get started and join with the free trial in the description below. No, money can help, but it can also be a disease if you don't know what you're doing. And so, I can only speak from my personal experience here, because when I started, I didn't have money. Obviously I had food, I had clothes, I had shelter, I had the basic necessities. So if you have the basic necessities, you don't need money in order to make money. More money, if you don't know what you're doing, will be a bigger hindrance or disease than an actual benefit, because, you have to go through that phase of learning what to do with your money. When I was starting my event planning company, I had to learn how to hustle. I had to learn how to sell. I had to learn how to get people to market. I had to learn how to grow. And you have to kind of learn how to do that. If somebody just gave me $1 million and said, hey, go start a company when I was 19 years old or 17 years old, I wouldn't know what to do. I would say, okay, let me go rent an office, nice office. Let me go hire some employees to do what? I don't know. You come up with a business, I mean, whatever, you just come up with any business idea. You would hire some people and just try to build a company based off of whatever your idea is. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're just going to blow your money on a whole bunch of dumb things that you think will help you grow. Like I don't really do business consulting, but I have consulted some businesses. And I remember this one very vividly because I knew the owner. So I was like, okay, let me help out. They had a product that they sold online. I go into their office, and it's a nice office. Like they have like glass doors, glass windows all throughout, glass offices inside. They have hardwood floors. And I remember they had one person that was skating around, like in their actual roller skates in the office. This is sweet. That's a cool looking office.
Right.
So I sit down with the founder, CEO, and I'm sitting with them. And I was going through the books, like the financials. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, you guys aren't making any money. And they're like, yeah, we've had these investments that have helped us get to here, but now our investors are asking us to drive a profit. Like they were getting a lot of investments. Their revenue was not that high, but their expenses were through the roof. And so they were like, what can we do to increase our revenue and to actually turn a profit? And I was like, well, first thing, you got to cut these expenses. Because they had just like, I mean, just dumb expense. Like they had nice furniture. They had like, everything was top of the line. And, we talked about how they could potentially grow their revenue. I was like, okay, like, you got to invest in like, how are you guys doing your advertising? How are you trying to get sales? And just nothing made sense. And I remember one question. I was like, who taught you to do your paid advertising? Because they were doing like Facebook ads and Instagram ads and some other stuff. Because they were legit spending $1 to make 50 cents. And I was like, who taught you to do your Facebook ads? So like, oh, our marketing professor in school. I was like, oh, that tells me a lot. It's like, you got to learn from somebody who's actually doing it first off. And so that was literally the disease of they had too much money. They had millions of dollars. They were making nothing. They were losing money. They were bleeding cash. And I don't know if this company still exists. I should actually look into that. But I mean, it was just like, it's like the prime example. Now, if I knew, like if today, if somebody gave me $10 million and said, do something with it, I hope I could do something a lot better with that money today. Reinvest it into my company, reinvest it into assets because I have that experience and the knowledge. So yeah, today, guess what? If I go and invest $1 million tomorrow, I know what I'm going to do with it. Like if I go and buy $1 million property, I know what I'm going to do with it. I know what I'm going to do and I can predictably understand what my return is going to be. And so, yeah, and for me now, more money will help me make more money. So like if I go tomorrow and I take $1 million out of my account and go and invest in something, yeah, I think that's going to make me more money. But if you tell me 15 years ago, no, more money would have made me dumber because I wouldn't have known what I'm doing. So more money can make you more money if you know what you're doing. But if you don't know what you're doing, more money is going to make you more dumb. So you got, you know what I mean? Like you have to go through that experience. And that's where you have to be willing to, this is where it gets so hard because people assume that I need X, Y, Z. I need money. I need rich parents. I need this, that to get started. But no, you need to have the hustle. You got to have the grit and you got to be willing to put in the work. And it's one of those things where it's hard in the beginning. It's really hard. Like from a physical standpoint of like, I got to figure this out. I got to work hard. And a mental standpoint of nobody believes in me. Like I can't sleep at night because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. What if I fail? What if things don't work out? What if, I can't support my family? That's hard. That meant, I'm telling you, because I was there. I remember sleeping and waking up in the middle of the night, kind of like panicking, like what happens if things don't work out? I was supposed to be a doctor. I threw that all away because I wanted to be some entrepreneur. And what if it doesn't work out? And I'm like, my heart's like, I was laying there in bed. I remember this, like, because it would keep me up at night because my heart would be sitting there racing. And I'm like, man, what if it doesn't work? My whole family is like going to be so disappointed. And they were disappointed when they found out I didn't want to be a doctor. That was my initial like motivation to want to do something. But you got that mental hurdle, you got that physical hurdle, you got to go through that spiritual hurdle of like, I have to believe in this myself, because if you don't believe in what you're doing, it's going to be significantly harder. So you got to be willing to go through all those hurdles. So, you know, if you say, does it take money to make money? Because I think that's a great question, and that's something that a lot of people ask. Even if you say, I would just take that money and go buy stocks. If you don't know how to invest your money in stocks, you take the $1 million and you go throw it into Tesla, and you see Tesla go down by 20%, and you're not an investor, because, I mean, especially Tesla is very volatile. It goes down by 20%. What are you going to do? That's 200 grand. 200 grand. A lot of people would sell. And this is where you have to be really like kind of like that education. You can't just throw money at problems to fix them. And I mean, I have just so many examples of this, because I've made that mistake. Even here at the Minority Mindset, we tried to do that. We have a blog that we were trying to work on, and you're laughing at that already. You know the problem. So, you know, some backstory. We had this blog. We still have it. Our blog is much better now than it was, but we were trying to figure out how to build our blog. I didn't have time to work on the blog because I was so busy in so many different other places. So I was like, okay, let me just throw some money at this problem. I hired a very well-known agency, company who was like one of the biggest in the game. And, you know, they made big promises like, yeah, we'll take care of it. We're going to help you. They wanted, I think it was 150 grand for 12 months to help kind of turn on our blog. I said, okay, here's 150 grand. Go do it. Throwing money at the problem. I think it was about 3 months in when I realized this was a mistake. Like they're not doing, like, it was like they're not doing anything. And so it was just like literally like month after month of just pain of having to go through this crap. And I was like, this is not fixing the problem. And then the 12 months go by. It's like, they're like, oh, you ready to renew? No, we are not renewing this contract. Thank you for your help. Please leave. And it was like, it's one of those things where more money isn't always the solution. So that was like 150 grand that just went to waste. And now we've completely turned that whole process around. What did we do? We went back to our roots, bootstrapping, coming up with our own strategies, being creative, coming up with ways to actually come up with good value, good content, literally going back to the roots. But it was like another mistake. I mean, it was a dumb mistake that I made. Hey, just throw money at the problem. More money isn't always a solution. You have to have the right education before you just throw money at it. And now, guess what? We fixed that. Now we got a new consultant who is, again, expensive. But it's helping us take what we have and then growing that instead of just throwing money at the problem. And, going back to the topic of passive income, because everybody wants passive income. Everybody wants to generate the passive income, and they assume, if only I had $1 million, if only someone gave me $10 million, I could go out and start generating passive income. But that's not always the case. If you can't manage $100, if you can't manage $1,000, if you can't manage $10,000, if you can't manage $100,000, you're not going to be able to manage $1 million. So you have to be able to start with the smaller numbers. That way you can learn, grow, understand, appreciate. That way when you get the next zero, you'll know exactly what to do. You start to build those systems. And then it's a matter of just, you figured it out. Now you just put more money into it. Now it's how do you attract more money?
And as far as that passive income kind of goes, do you have to traditionally invest in order to get those numbers up there? Are there other ways to bring in passive income?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, what are the ways that you can generate passive income? So like when I look for passive income, I invest in real estate. I do have some dividend paying stocks. I don't do a lot of that anymore because if you just kind of look at what is a dividend is when a company takes their profits and they can do three things. They can save it for an emergency, they can reinvest it for growth, or they can give it to their shareholders by either buying back the stock, making the stock price go up, or just giving to them in cash dividends. So, I mean, I have bought dividend stocks and I still own them. But when I look for stocks now, I'm not really looking for the dividend paying companies. I'm looking for smaller opportunities because, one is a little bit more risky, but has more potential upside because I have time on my side. So for me, I want to see more of the upside. When I want my cash flow, I invest in real estate. So, I do have some stocks. Then the other place where I don't know if I want to call it passive income or not, but I have some cryptocurrency that's earning me interest. I have stable coins and some crypto in interest-bearing accounts that is just sitting there paying me interest. And it's paying me I think my crypto is earning like 3, 4, 5% a year in interest, and my stable coins, $1 is one stable coin. So I moved a big chunk of my cash that's waiting to be invested into stable coins. That's paying me 8 to 9% right now in interest. So yeah, that's a great return. I mean, that's like a real estate return. But I wouldn't call that passive income per se, because that's not where I want to keep my money forever. Like, I understand that there's risks there. I want to actually own an asset. I want to actually own real estate or something for passive income. So in a way, it kind of is passive income because I don't really have to do anything. But I don't want to call that passive income. Where are the other ways that you can generate passive income? I mean, I guess if you can get into businesses where you do not have to manage anything, it could potentially be passive income, but you need a lot of cash to get it to that point. So some people assume that building a business can be passive income. And I can just talk about Minority Mindset to give like very transparent information on that. Minority Mindset generates income through YouTube ad revenue. We have sponsorships. We have our newsletter, which generates sponsorships. We have our blog. We have our market insiders. And so people assume that, hey, if you own the company, it's passive. Well, I'm working pretty hard in Minority Mindset, so I wouldn't call it passive there. Then people say, well, what about YouTube? Your videos from a year ago are still generating revenue today. Yeah, that's true. But if I stop making videos tomorrow, then the videos from last year are going to suddenly stop getting seen. It's just the way the algorithm works. Like, it doesn't go on forever. I'm sure I would still generate something, but it wouldn't be as much as it is today. So like for like YouTube and a business, if you just suddenly stop, well then that income is going to go down unless you can replace yourself. So I mean, if you can buy a completely hands-off business, then yeah, that is passive income. Like if you can go out and buy some sort of, whatever the business is, if you buy a brick and mortar business where people are selling things, this is to keep it completely simple. Think of like, I don't know, like a franchise. You buy a franchise, assuming you don't have to work there. If you own it, then you should be able to generate passive income. But the reason why I say it takes a lot of cash, because if you go out and buy one franchise, it's not going to be passive. You're going to be the one that's managing all the paperwork. You're going to be the one that's making sure that things are paid. You're going to be the one that has to make sure that employees are paid, that people are working, that the business is working, that everything is functioning. And so in order for you to now make it passive, you'd have to transplant yourself out and put somebody else in, like a district manager of some sort. So that's why I say it takes a lot of cash for it to be completely passive, because the whole idea of passive means you don't got to sit there and make sure everything is working. So, if you got like 10 franchises, then yeah, you can hire a district manager, and now your job is just to make sure the district manager or 2 district managers are doing their job, because if one leaves, you don't want it to fall on you. So in order for it to be passive, yeah, you're going to need more money in that sense. So in order to really generate that passive income, the best way to do it, if you want true passive income, is real estate for cash flow, stocks for dividends. Now, the way that you can generate the passive income is you got to have the cash in order to go out and buy real estate, or to have the cash to go out and buy stocks. How do you get more cash? You got to understand how to attract more money. So either you work to get more money from a job, or you start your own business. Starting your business is not for everybody. It's a lot of hard work, and so it's just like that's where there's this myth, that passive income myth, that it's easy to start generating this passive income. No, I mean, like real passive income is stocks or real estate. Stocks from dividends, real estate from cash flow. You want to generate more cash flow, you got to buy more dividend-paying stocks, you got to buy more real estate. How do you buy more of that? You need more cash. How do you get more cash? You got to work your butt off. You know what I mean? Like, right. That's the ultimate formula, and you can't bypass that. But you can generate passive income. Passive income is a real thing, but you have to know how to get there. And obviously, there are opportunities that are sometimes better than others. 2015 was a great opportunity. to buy Bitcoin. 2017 was a great opportunity to buy Bitcoin. And so 2018 was a great opportunity to buy Bitcoin to see the massive returns. Maybe, I mean, I still buy crypto. I am still buying all that. I think that there's a lot of volatility. I think there's going to be a lot of volatility, but I'm still buying that. I think there's still a lot of opportunity in real estate. I'm still buying it. I still think there's opportunity in stocks. I'm still buying. But again, the opportunity is not what it, like, there's like no-brainer opportunity where it's like everyone's running away. This is an opportunity for you to buy. And then there's like, you know, the regular market opportunity. Right now, we have that regular market opportunity, but when you see those type of market corrections, the recessions, the crashes, those are the Black Friday. That's when you want to be aggressive and buy as much as you can. Because that's when you can really start like maximizing your returns. But in order to do that, you have to be prepared. Prepared meaning, one, mentally prepared. You have to understand that this could be an opportunity, and then financially prepared. Like, okay, what am I going to do to go out and buy? So that's kind of the ways that you have to do that.
Is the key then to long-lasting wealth passive income?
It's not even just passive income. It's buying assets. Buying things that actually have value. Like for example, long-lasting wealth. People assume that if I want to build wealth, I need $1 million. Okay, but let's take that. Let's expand that. I have $1 million, and I want to build long-lasting wealth. How do I take this $1 million and make sure that my grandkids can have $1 million? Well, the best thing I can do is take this $1 million and bury it in my backyard, right? That way no one can accidentally spend it. I don't tell anybody where it is. I'm going to bury it somewhere. Obviously there's legal ways to do that. You get a trust or something. But let's assume I just I dig a hole in my backyard. I put $1 million there. And then I write a note that in 50 years, my grandkids can find this $1 million. Well, what's going to happen in 50 years? They're going to go find this $1 million and say, hey, I found $1 million, but that's really not that much money. You know what I mean? You have to buy something that has real value. And so, what is that thing? Well, you could buy stocks, you can buy companies. Not every company pays a dividend. So does that mean that it's not going to build you any long-term value if it doesn't pay a dividend? No, I mean, you could buy a great company that doesn't pay a dividend that has real long-term value because that asset has value. You can buy, if you're buying real estate, you want to be generating passive income. I guess you could say you could buy land, but my issue with that is you're paying to maintain the land, you're paying taxes on the land, you're paying every single year to keep it. But it's not generating you anything. If you rent it out to a farmer, if you farm it, then it can start generating you income. But if you own physical real estate, you want it to start generating you cash flow. Or you can own businesses. I invest in startups. I had a couple calls earlier today with some companies that I'm invested in. And, they're not paying me anything. Some of them are going to go bankrupt. Some of them are going to do nothing. Some of them are going to go big. It's highly risky. So it doesn't have to pay you with cash flow. Right now, at least, maybe it will in the future, but that's not. The definition of an asset is not necessarily cash flow. The definition of an asset is something that makes you money, and so it can go up in value, but it just depends on what your goal is. Like I invest in real estate for the purposes of generating cash flow. You can call it passive income, call it whatever you want, but that's why I invest in real estate. I invest in stocks because I believe in the economy and I want to see the upside in the economy. So, I'm not investing in dividend-paying companies the way I used to, just because, I kind of see where my risk tolerance is now. My risk tolerance has changed. I want to be a little bit riskier. I want to take some of this higher growth potential. So that's where I'm investing my money. And so, no, it doesn't have to generate cash flow, at least now, if you want to build a long-term wealth. But if you want to build a long-term wealth, you have to know what it is that you're investing in. Because it's not just making that money and making that wealth, it's keeping that wealth. That's just as much of a concern as making that money.
And I think the majority of Americans are scared of the time commitment that it takes to build this passive income. It took you a while to start making that first $1,000. And like you said, there was a lot of problems that came up and they're scared. People are scared of taking that time and then eventually failing if they don't come out and do it. So is passive income for somebody that doesn't have the time, or do you have to have that time in order to build that?
The time is going to pass regardless. And this is one of those things, we tend to have a really short-term outlook. When can I start seeing the returns on my money? How fast can I see the returns on my money? But what a lot of times we don't realize is that the time is going to pass anyways. So why not make smarter decisions with our money? Because they say, oh, I don't care about what's going to happen in 10 years. Well, if you're here in 10 years, wouldn't you rather have good assets and wealth in that time? Like, 10 years are going to pass and you're still going to be here. You might as well be wealthy in 10 years and continue to be broke. And so, yeah, I mean, it is hard because that means you got to make the sacrifice today. And it does take about a decade to really build wealth. A decade of hard work, a decade of putting in the hustle and learning and continuing to acquire the assets. So you're right. I mean, it takes time, and that can be scary. Like, oh, I don't want to think about 30 years or 20 years or whatever, 10 years, but the time is going to pass. Time is going to pass whether you make smart decisions or you don't. And if you don't make smart decisions, well, 10 years from now, you're going to say, dang it, I wish I would have started when I watched that Minority Mindset video. I wish I would have started when Jaspreet was yelling on camera talking about investing in assets. So it's like, if the time is going to pass, do you want to continue to be broke then and now? Or would you rather just put in that sacrifice now, be broke now and wealthy later? And that's a decision you got to make for yourself. I mean, it is hard. And people do need to wake up and realize that, hey, the opportunity is in my hands. Like, I can go out and start doing something. And people say, oh, I don't have $10,000 to invest. I don't have $100,000 to invest. You don't need that much money anymore. It has become so much easier, not just to learn thanks to YouTube, but also to do thanks to apps and technology. You can start investing in stocks with like $5. Mm-hmm. I don't even think like $5. You can go out and open an app and start investing in stocks, ETFs, anything you want. You can start investing in real estate, get exposure to real estate with $100. And yeah, you're not going to buy the physical property, but you can buy a fund that gives you exposure to property. I'm not even talking about a REIT. REITs are stocks where you invest in the company that invests in real estate. You can invest in actual real estate funds with as little as $100 now. You can invest in startups thanks to something called Regulation CF, with as little as it's either $100 or $250 depending on where you go. But like just a couple $100. You can start investing in these things. So, I mean, it's like, there's really no excuse. It's now, what do you want with that money? Do you want the nice car right now? Or you want to start buying these assets right now? And now it goes into that mental game, because building wealth is as much your action as it is your mindset. We call ourselves the minority mindset, obviously because we think differently than the majority of people, but all success starts with your mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, it is going to be impossible. It's not possible. You can have all the right education. You can have all the books. You can have the mentors. You can have the coaches. You can have the consultants. If your mindset is broke, it does not matter what you have. You are going to continue to not see that success. But you have to have that mindset of like, okay, willing to do whatever it takes, because now if you decide, I am going to start buying assets, well, that means maybe I'm not going on the vacation this year. Maybe I'm downsizing my car. I'm selling my BMW and I'm going to start driving a Honda Accord. Or maybe that means I'm going to buy a smaller home, or I'm going to rent a home instead of buying. Whoa, right? You're trying to say, I'm not going to, instead of putting the down payment down on a home, I'm going to put that down payment down on a rental property. I'm going to start, it's a change in mindset. And then your family is going to look at you like you lost your mind. What do you mean you want to rent? I thought you were making good money. What do you mean you want to drive a Honda? You used to drive a Jaguar. It's like people look at you like you're crazy. They don't understand that, like, they don't know what you know. They don't see what you see. And so, I say that you got to be a little bit stupid. I say that because anytime I wanted to do something like, I wanted to invest or be an entrepreneur, do all these things, I was always told that I was stupid. And now for me, I kind of call it my stupid test. If I want to do something and people don't tell me that I'm stupid, I'm not thinking big enough. You have to be kind of stupid and crazy in that, where you have to think differently. And the majority of people are not going to get it. They just aren't. I mean, you can sit there and slap the majority of people in the face with financial education, but the majority of people are just not going to care. They're not going to get it, or they're not going to accept it. And, if you're like, hey, I want to do something different, well, then you're going to have to, one, start taking action, and then you're going to have to be willing to break away from what the majority of people say, what the majority of people think, and what the majority of people do. And that's hard. And so it's like you got the mental, you got the action, and those are the two different things that you got to be willing to go over.
I think the majority of Americans do want to make that passive income, and I think the majority of
Everybody
Americans,
does. Who does not want? If you say, hey, walk down the street, do you want $1,000 a month in passive income extra? Yes or no? You have to be out of your mind to say no. Everybody does.
the majority of Americans want to be wealthy as well. I think, and the majority of Americans are also in the same note, living paycheck to paycheck. And I think the majority of Americans realize that they just can't out hustle poverty.
You know, there's two aspects to it. You know, it sucks. There are systematic issues, okay? You got issues with inflation. Cost of living is going up. You have wages that are not keeping up. You have, if you grew up poor, you might not have seen anything else. You have all these issues, okay? I'm not going to ignore that. Those issues are there. But that does not take away from the fact that the opportunity is also there. Does that mean it's easy? No, it's very hard. Does that mean it's possible? Yes, for anybody. I mean, okay, look, my family's home in India. You got running water at home, Nathan?
I do.
Okay. You got electricity at home?
I do.
Okay. Our family's home in India. We got running water some hours of the day. Even today, at the time we're recording this video, we have electricity some hours of the day. It's funny, when I go back to our home in India, it's like they say, oh, it's 10 a.m. Has everybody showered? No, I didn't. Get in, go take a bath. And it's not a shower. We actually have a, what's it called in English? A bucket, called a balti in Punjabi. It's a bucket. So what you do, you turn the water on, the water goes into a bucket, then you take a small little hand thing like this, and then you pour the water on yourself. Okay, so that's our shower. But the water turns off at like 10 a.m. or noon, so we know that. And so what you do is you got to go to the bathroom, take a shower, all that by 10 a.m. or noon, and then the electricity a lot of times goes out still, okay? You live in the United States. If you're in America, guess what? If you got access to running water, you got access to electricity, you got access to freedoms, you got access to YouTube, you got access to this education, you have these things. Now you got to do something with it. And you got to be willing to put in that work. Like, there's a reason why immigrants come to this country with nothing. Less than 100. My dad came to this country with less than $100. Okay, they come to this country. They risk their lives first to come to this country. They come to a new country. They don't know the language. They don't know the people, and they'll bust their butt. Why? Because they see an opportunity. So, yeah, you're right. If all you've seen is crap, everything around you is crap, it's hard to break away from the crap. But thankfully, we have things like YouTube, which decentralizes education, because our education system is screwed up. You know, we've created the free K through 12 financial education curriculum for teachers, principals, superintendents, parents, anybody who wants to teach their kids financial education. I think we've had like 50,000 people download it now, which is great. You can go to our website, theminoritymindset.com, download it for free. It's completely free, just so we can help spread financial education. But if you're surrounded by crap, how do you know anything else? Well, before YouTube, it was hard because you didn't have a way to go out and learn more. I mean, you had to go and read a book, which was a much higher barrier to entry. You had to go to the library, go to the bookstore, buy a book, read it, and then you start to see something else, which is hard. You got to break out of the crap that you're in. But YouTube has made it so easy. And this is the beauty of decentralized education. I cannot emphasize this enough. YouTube is going to change the world. It is going to change the education system, because now you can choose your teachers and you can choose what you want to learn. What is the issue? I don't want to get into the political stuff, but what is the issue with education? Well, you have some poor areas with crappy schools, and you have some rich areas with good schools. So the whole issue is, I went to a rich area, I went to a poor area, so I was only exposed to this. And so this is the thing that all politicians are fighting over. Oh, how do you help poor kids get this? How do you help rich kids get this, and all this crap? Listen, now if you're poor or you're rich, you can go onto YouTube and learn how to do anything. Learn how to start a business. Learn how to make money, even with nothing. There are people that start with literally nothing that can build it. So you need to get that education, and then you need to go out and do it. It is hard. I don't care if you come from a rich family or a poor family. It is hard. And obviously, if you have to worry about taking care of your parents as well, it is even harder. But that opportunity is still there. The opportunity is there for anybody if you live in a first world country like America. I mean, this is the best country in the world to do it. Like, America's got its issues, man, but compared to the rest of the world, you don't want to be anywhere else. This is the best place to want to be in and try to do it. You have every opportunity here, and if you want to seize it, you can, but you have to be willing to seize it.
So what if you don't have access to all of those things that you mentioned?
YouTube, go to the library.
What if you're what if you're homeless?
Listen, I was homeless. I went on a homeless experiment for 4 days.
So the homeless, what you're saying is the homeless, it's a mindset problem?
No, I'm not saying it's a mindset problem, but if you are homeless, when I was homeless for 4 days, I went on an experiment because I have a community service organization that I started. And we do a lot of work in Detroit. And we were doing a lot of work for homeless people. And what I realized was like, okay, we're trying to help homeless people, but we don't really understand what they're going through. Like, we really don't. We give them some sort of education. We give them clothes. We give them hygiene kits. It's very important to me to give back. Like, it's part of my religion. I was like, why don't we try? I know I will never be able to experience real homelessness because I'm not homeless, but I can try. So me and a couple guys, we went on a homeless experiment where we lived in the city of Detroit on the streets for 4 days. We only had, I think it was $15, and we tried it. Now, obviously, again, I knew I was going home. I knew I was going to have a nice shower. I knew all these things, but I just wanted to see what it's like to now have to sleep on the streets, to not have food, and to just see this. And we got to know a lot of the homeless people. We started to talk to them.
I remember that video, yeah.
And we just started to talk to them to see what it is. And if you're homeless, it is going to be harder, 100%. But is it impossible? No, never. I mean, look, you got to start from the real baby steps. The real, like everyone's got a certain starting point. You got to start with the real baby steps at that point. How do you start with $100? How do you get your first job? You got to just start getting some cash. And there are opportunities out there. Like, I can just speak with Detroit here. I interviewed this person. She was creating jobs for people in Detroit, homeless people, by creating products for people who are homeless. And so she was getting a lot of funding from celebrities and other people. I forget the name of the company, Detroit Coats, something along there. Her name was Veronica. And it's a start. Look for opportunities to how you can start earning income. Anything. And there are resources. You might have to work hard. I know some of the resources are completely crap. I know some of the shelters are complete crap. I've worked with many of these shelters. It's horrible to see the state of some of these shelters, which it bugs me. It bugs me to see how crappy some of these shelters are, to see some of them get run down, because I work very closely with some of them. So yeah, it's going to be hard. But then you got to go and start earning something. You got to. And there are people, there are resources out there. Go onto YouTube, watch YouTube videos, how to get a job as a homeless person. Go search it. Then you go out and you start earning a little bit of money. Go out and find $100. I mean, you start with $100 and you save $200 and you save $300. Eric Thomas, a huge inspiration for me. Huge inspiration. He's a motivational speaker. He's from Michigan, also from Detroit. He was homeless. He used to eat out of garbage cans, stayed and slept in abandoned buildings. Now he charges $10,000 for 30 minutes to go and speak. One of the most successful motivational speakers out there. It is not easy. It is not impossible either.
And I want to ask, so if you are successful with...
And I want to add one more thing. If you are homeless in America, you are poor in America, you're still rich relative to poor people around the world. You want to see poor? Leave this country. Go to a different country. Go see the slums in India, and you will see what real poor looks like. It is a different world. Mm-hmm. You have so many opportunities in America. If you are in America, like you are already, like people talk about privilege. If you're poor in America, you're privileged. Privilege is a matter of relativeness. Mm-hmm. You make $10 million a year, are you privileged? Well, compared to someone who makes $5 million a year, you are. If you make $1 million a year, are you privileged? Compared to somebody who makes $100,000, you are. If you make 25 grand a year, are you privileged? Compared to somebody homeless, you are. If you're homeless in America, are you privileged? Compared to somebody homeless in India, you are. It's a matter of relativity.
That's true.
And you have the best opportunities in America.
I want to ask too about if you are successful with passive income and you do start to see some passive income every single month, you are starting to bring some money in. What are some ways that you can now scale that? So you've started to make $500, $600, $1,000. Do you just keep doing the same things over and over and over again, or how do you grow more passive income?
Yeah, it's compounding. It's the art of compounding. Compounding means reinvesting your earnings. So Albert Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world because of the power that compounding has. When you the way to grow your passive income is every week, every month, whatever it is, you take some money and you invest it into your assets. So every week, let's just say every month, you take some of the money that you earn, put it towards buying more assets. So every month you're buying more assets. Then if you're generating passive income, these assets are also paying you. Now, instead of you taking this money and you go out on a nice vacation, you take this money and you reinvest it back into these assets that are paying you. So now what have you done? You've bought a machine that's paying you, and you're buying more of this machine that's paying you. And anytime it pays you, you go out and buy more of this machine that keeps paying you. So it's a time thing. You have to just keep letting this machine grow and build a bigger machine month after month after month after month after month. And what you're going to realize is as you start to learn how to attract more money, you can earn more money. As you earn more money, you use more of this money to buy more of the machine. Then this machine pays you more passive income. What do you do with this more passive income? Well, you take more of this passive income and you reinvest it to buy more of this machine. So you build, it's just like a snowball, right? You keep building the snowball bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you give it time. And the more time you have, the bigger this thing can grow. So that's the way that you do it if you really want to amplify it and scale it. And I think with that, we're getting close to the end of time for this Guac Talk.
Yeah, we're pretty close.
Good discussion today, Nate. I enjoyed that one. Good questions that you asked me. If you want to see more of Nate, you can check out Nate on the Minority Mindset News YouTube channel, where you're publishing videos every single day.
Sometimes twice a day.
Sometimes twice a day. On the top finance and business news. Your videos have gotten really good, by the way.
Appreciate that.
You need to check out his channel if you have not already. Go subscribe to the Minority Mindset News channel. You are going to love his videos. This is Guaci, I am Jaspreet Singh, and this was another episode of Guac Talk. You will probably get some raises, or hopefully you'll get a raise to help you counteract this inflation. But what you'll see happen a lot of times is your wage raises won't be enough to cover the actual inflation that you feel. Because the government and the media have these inflation indices that they look at. They look at CPI, they look at PCE.